In this project, we're going to use the JackBord top and the JackBord to write a program that will let you control an orange ball on the show page using the left and right potentiometers on the JackBord top. Okay, here we can see the program operating. On the left-hand side we have the top, and if I take the left-hand potentiometer, or the left-hand pot, and turn it all the way anti-clockwise, the ball moves to the left. And if I turn it around to the full clockwise, the ball moves to the right. And if I center it, the ball is in the center. And likewise, if I turn the right-hand potentiometer all the way anti-clockwise, the ball goes to the bottom. And if I turn it all the way clockwise, the ball goes to the top. And then if I center it, the ball remains in the center. You can get the code for this program directly from the jackbord.org website by going to www.jackbord.org, and at the search prompt on the home page, enter TMT3 capital N, small d, and 8, and press enter. This will take you directly to the program code. This is the circuit for our program. In the middle we have the JackBord top. On the left-hand side we have potentiometer number 1. There are 3 connections from the potentiometer to port A. The pins on the pot are numbered from 1 to 3, with 1 being at the top and 3 being at the bottom. The first wire goes from pin 1 on the potentiometer all the way around to the 3-volt line on port A. The next wire is our analog output, which goes from pin 2 on the potentiometer all the way around to pin A1 on port A. And finally, we have the ground pin, which goes from pin 3 on the potentiometer all the way around to the ground pin on the JackBord. Likewise, on the right-hand side, we have the right-hand potentiometer. This also has 3 pins, with pin 1 being at the top and pin 3 being at the bottom. The first pin, pin 1, goes to the 3-volt line on port C of the JackBord. The middle pin, which is on pin number 2 of the potentiometer, goes all the way over to port A, pin 2, or pin A2. And finally, the ground pin goes from pin 3 on the pot all around to the ground connection on port C. Okay, so this is how the program works. If you look on the right-hand side where the show window is, you can see that it's telling us that the window is 874 pixels wide and 630 high. So 874 that way and 630 this way. So if we come over to the program, the first thing we do is we declare a variable called display width, and we set it to 874, which matches this value here. Then next, we create a variable called display height, and that's 630, which again matches the height of our show window. Once we've done that, the next thing we do is we just clear the screen, and then we just print moving circle program, which will appear in the print tab. Next, we're going to set up the 2 analog inputs. Now the first one is on pin A1, and we want to scale it between 0 and the width of the display. So the analog input that we put into A1, which will go from 0 to 3 volts, is going to be automatically scaled to go from 0 to 874 pixels. Then for the next line, we're getting a voltage from A2, and again, we're scaling it, but this time we're scaling it between 0 and the height of the display. So when the voltage at pin A2 is 0, the output will be 0. When it's 3 volts, it will be 630. The key thing here is that these 2 values are in pixels. So we are converting the voltage input at each of the pins into pixel values. And this is what moves the ball around. The next thing we do is we come to the main program loop. So this line here is printing text, and all it's doing is printing the current value of the x-axis and the y-axis. Or in other words, X is the value that we're getting from pin A1, and Y is the value that we're getting from pin A2. And finally, down the bottom here, we are going to put a circle, and we're going to put it at the value of A1, which is the X value, and A2, which is the Y value. The circle is going to have a radius of 50, and we've set an ID here of cat. And all that means is that it will update this one instead of creating a new one. And then we've just made the fill color orange, so the circle is orange. And then when we finish running the program, it will just print by. Okay, to wrap up, one thing you need to keep in mind is that these sizes up here will be different most likely for your particular display. So when you go to run the program, you need to make sure that you update these two variables here to match the values that you get in your program. If these values here appear to be 0, 0, just reload the page with this button here. Then the second thing is you might notice that the ball, even though we're not turning the potentiometers, is still bobbling around the page. This is because there's noise on the analog inputs from the potentiometers, and the JackBord is picking this up. And this is just random noise.